Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Kia Orion, the man who is obsessed with making great music and teaching you how to make your own. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you on audio, whether you on video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. And I appreciate that. We're coming to you live and direct with another topless episode because it is blazing hot out here. But the good news is, it's raining. So if you hear some like slushy, rainy sounds, that is because that's exactly what it is. But the good news is, because it is raining, it's a little bit cooler. So I was like, this is a time I could actually pod and not have to have the fan on full blast. And hopefully the whistling sound is gone so we can resume. I'm normally not a 2 pods a week type of guy, although I would like to, but my life probably... You all get tired of hearing me talk about the same shit over and over that you probably already are, even just in the one pod. But I wanted to come to you this week with 2 mini pods because there were some ideas that I was thinking about on the last one I wasn't able to get to that I wanted to dig into deeper. And so this one's going to be a little bit less about like what's going on in Kia's life for the week and more about this question. If you read the title or description, whatever, you already know what this is about. I heard a podcast this last weekend about this same question, and it really got me thinking. The host of that podcast, he had a very academic approach to it, which was cool, and I like that, but I wanted to come at it more from like Kia's philosophical type of approach, because this is something that I think a lot about. This is something that's been on my mind a lot recently, and so shout out to you if we've chopped it up recently. My homies Lena, Spencer, shout out to y'all. Y'all have given me a lot to chew on with this, especially because I'm at a point in my life where I think this is more pertinent. I'm not even sure if I pronounced that. I promise I went to school. It's more important than ever. I'll switch that out. So this is something that I do think about a lot as someone who is ambitious, but also who hasn't. There's levels to this shit. Right? So I would say in some regards, I've achieved a lot, and I'm very proud of what I've been able to create, this life I've been able to create. And on another hand, I also feel like there's a lot of luck involved in that, being born to a middle-class family as a white male in the United States. Whether you can call it luck, you can call it fate, but those are things that were out of my control that have been a huge factor to, I think, the success that I've been able to have. But I say all that to say, there's so much still that I want to do, that I've yet to do, that is, to me, I think that's part of it, is that, right, the goalpost always moves, which makes this question, I think, even more interesting, at least to me. And so I want to break this down. This isn't going to be a super long pod, but I want to break this down in a few different elements just that I've been thinking about. And that is the question, is ambition worth it? And what I mean by that is, to me, I see it as 2 sides of the spectrum. And I think there are a lot of thought pieces on this now in terms of ambition being the issue for a lot of problems, especially I think being an American, a lot of this like this dopamine chasing constantly kind of idea of more, compared to, I'd say, sometimes in other cultures. I don't even know if it's cultural, but I feel like it is, just in my experience being an American and now having some perspective on Americans, of sometimes life being a little bit more, I don't want to say simple, because that almost feels derogatory, but it feels like the priorities are different, that it's less about solely achieving and more about this feeling of like enjoying. What a concept, but like enjoying the time spent in a place and family and long walks and going to the beach and that sort of stuff. We're into that in the States, but we're also like, oh, nice to meet you. What's your name? What do you do? Right? That's like one of the first things is like, can you help me? Am I like, and we measure you up on kind of this like weird hierarchy of where you are in the society thing. So there's a lot of places to go with this. I want to first break it down in the regards of happiness. Because to me, I don't think chasing happiness is the goal. I feel like, in my experience, it's more about purpose. That happiness isn't the goal because happiness is an emotion. Therefore, it's inherently fallible because no emotions are permanent. So you're already chasing from the beginning something that's kind of setting you up to fail just from the rip. And so for me, I think rather switching it to, and also happiness is something that I feel like almost like the more you chase it, like the farther it gets away from you. Also relating to dopamine, and on the biological kind of more scientific piece of this is more like that sense of you get those highs, and that's why it's kind of a dangerous game because you always want more. It's something, happiness I feel like is a drug that is law of diminishing returns. There's nothing quite like that first hit, that first time. They're like, ooh, I want that again. And then it kind of, it normals out. And then you need more of it to get that same high. No matter what, I'm not just talking drugs or whatever, like this could be anything. But to me, I think rather it's that feeling of purpose that is, again, these are all key as ideas. You can agree or disagree. But it's this idea of feeling like you have something worth living for. It's a purpose. It's a mission of some sort. You feel like you're spending time doing something worthwhile. Even if that is you're lost in your craft or you're lost in a job that you really love, whatever it is. That could even be providing for your family, right? Something a lot of people find a lot of value in that. And I think that that's rad. But to me, that is the main goal, because I think happiness then is as a kind of a side effect of that, of like feeling like you have a purpose in chasing it. But I think instead, I know at least with me, and for me with music, with my example, a lot of days are not happy. Like, I make a lot of bad music. There's a lot of days when it doesn't work. There's a lot of days when I struggle with self-doubt. There's a lot of days when I want to quit. But I think it's that inherent overall, when it does work, I still feel like I have that direction. And I think that that's really big, is having that direction no matter what it is. And that, like, it's rather finding something that you love, because like 80% of the time is going to be hard. But like, that's also the point, is that's what makes it worthwhile, is that it's not easy. And I think that that's the beautiful part, is it's like finding something that you are cool failing at. And I've talked about this before on the pod, but I love the saying of rather like, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And for me, this is what I was talking to my friend about the other day. It's like, what would you do knowing you would fail? And that simple reframe to me makes things much more clear, to be like, if you know this isn't going to work, what could you still spend your time doing and feel like it was time well spent? Even if it doesn't go anywhere, knowing it's not going to work, does that still feel like you enjoyed pursuing it? That to me makes motivations really clear, even though, depending on if you believe like we're in the Matrix or not, like if it's all empty and we're all kind of pursuing validation of one form or another, which actually just boils down to love of one form or another. Like, that's all we really want when you boil down goals, positions, professions, successes. Like, it really just boils down to love if you really strip it all the way back. But we're not going to go totally Matrix left field on this one just yet. So for me, that's a big one. In terms of when I think about ambition, is it's that feeling of purpose. I don't think the human brain likes to do nothing. Like, in this beautiful kind of nomad life that I'm in, and I've met a lot of other people, when you're able to kind of get your time and your independence back, you sip pina coladas for a couple of days on the beach and you're like, okay, like I'm ready to do something, right? But I think that to me, that contrast of ambition, for me, that word is loaded more with success in a traditional sense. Ambition in regards to achievement, in regards to getting the attention, the respect, the admiration, the abundance that comes with the pursuit, rather than ambition in like the more like Thoreauian sense of Brazilian like martial arts. One reason I love martial art, and it's like small incremental changes, or like that documentary about the sushi. Is it Jiro? Some dude who dreams of sushi, like that dude who like every day is like in the craft, and it's not, you know, that's more like you're like obsessed with the craft, period. That's just the joy from the craft. And I think that that's where it's this kind of back and forth, and also just enjoying life that I would put on the other end of that spectrum, outside of just the pure ambition piece. Because this really resonated with me the other day when I was talking to my friend Lena. She's basically my therapist. And I made a remark about enjoying this lifestyle, this like nomad lifestyle. And she's like, Kia, what lifestyle? She's like, you're the only one I know who like goes to these really cool places and then just does the exact same shit. She's like, you're a pain in the ass to invite out because you never come. And it's like, you never go do any like the cool stuff. And she's like, so like what lifestyle? She's like, you've been obsessed with work ever since I've known you. And she's right. And that's the rad thing about Lena, is that she's going to tell it to you straight. And I appreciate that. But that also hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew it, but it's also different. It's something that I think you feel like there's a lot of things that I think we feel like we can hide from other people, or like the other people don't notice, but like other people, you all know. You know what I mean? Like it's something like we feel like we're like, but you know. It's the same as like if you're on a date with a girl, like the girl, like y'all know. It's not like we're pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. Like y'all know what it is. And for me, I think that really resonated at that same piece of it being like feeling like I'm just wired weird, but I know I'm not alone in this. And so I'm curious. That's why I'm curious if y'all feel the same way. Of like, there's a period of enjoyment of like going to do like normal quote unquote fun things, like going to the beach or going to the club or just like going to do fun things that like a lot of times I go and I have to try to be like, Kia, be here, be present, be in the moment. But I'm still like thinking like I can't wait to get back to get after the dream. Like I feel like to my calling in a way of what I feel like, at least in this moment of my life, is that calling, the pursuit piece. And so sometimes I wonder if I'm broken, because I'm like, I should probably be able to enjoy like a night out with friends, but there's this obsession that comes with that drive that I think can be a double-edged sword in that regard of when you're on the pursuit and you're on the path, there's a real feeling of happiness is not a word, but it's a feeling of like you're like the universe and you and the universe are kind of like in sync. Shout out In Sync one time. Y'all in sync. But in that same regard, almost inherently with ambition, this is what I was talking to my buddy about, that includes a state of anxiety. You're almost always going to be playing kind of with higher stakes, no matter what that is. Because because that normally means there's some risk involved of some sort. And so as you play with higher stakes, there is anxiety there, and nerves and stress and all those things that aren't great, but that can also help you kind of kick you in the ass. That's the whole point. And so if you live in that place, that's a dangerous game. And I think that's why you get burned out, etc. But then on the other end of the spectrum, there is that more just totally enjoying, totally present, always in the moment, always just for right now, just enjoying this piece that I love, but that I also feel like can tip into, I don't want to say lethargy, but of kind of just like status quo, of not 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 moving forward. And I think for me that like small incremental changes every day in these kind of like different buckets, whether it's language learning or martial arts or music, like production or singing or marketing, like I feel like these small 1% kind of incremental changes every day for me are kind of where I find that quote unquote happiness. And then if one fails, like having like if my music didn't work, I'm like, hey, at least I like learned some stuff in the boxing. If I have a terrible workout and the coach almost kills me, maybe I have a chance to write a good song. Sometimes all of them don't work, and I'm like, I just need to go on a long walk, go to bed, and I'll get it the next day. But the point being is, to me, it's like that like always improving piece is where I find, I think, that feeling of being content. But it like steals the moment from me in a weird way. Compared to, there are other times, if I'm on vacation, say my mom comes to visit, or I'm on vacation with family or something, where it's just like I'm not worried about improving nothing. I'm just like here today. And those can be really great, beautiful moments. But I feel like they're not something that I would want to do forever. And at the same time, this is where, now being 30, still on this path, same path I've been on since I was 17. Some years I would take off, I wasn't very serious, and I got distracted by relationships and ladies, and was in jobs I didn't hate, so I wasn't able to fully give it my all. So it doesn't exactly count if you add it up like that, but more or less I've been kind of wanting the same things for at least a decade, chasing. And them not working out has given me a lot of perspective. Because, again, it's that reality of, like, that possibility that it won't. And me learning how to be okay with that if it doesn't. And some days I'll have incredible mental clarity, and it's almost like there's no way it can't not work out. Because I'm so passionate about it and going to give it my everything all day, every day, that it's almost like something got to give at some point. But, and now at this point, when it hasn't, how to be okay with that and really coming to terms with that, being like, if all the glitters and gold shit doesn't come to fruition, how will I still be able to mentally process and accept all of the sacrifices along the way that I banked, always hoping, always knowing, always wishing, always feeling like they would pay off. And I think that's been tough for me. Again, thinking about the ambition, is it worth the piece? And that includes everything. That includes, like I was saying before, sacrificed relationships, potential partners, sacrificed other, potential careers or other things I could have done. Even with the vasectomy piece, like possibly a family, like giving up what it means to inherently be human. Like what is the one possible universal piece of what it means to be human in a lot of ways is to continue the species to be a parent. And now, again, this is tricky because, like I said, not everyone I think is meant to be a parent. I think maybe I fall into that category. Some people want to be a parent and it doesn't work out. Some people probably shouldn't be parents, and they are. There are all of the above that happen. But to intentionally say, I would rather pursue and give my soul, my energy, my love to the craft, to the art, live the life of an artist, whether I make it or break it, and sacrifice the one thing of what it inherently means to be human, having to cope and accept and come to terms with those things, that it's not like I'm Drake and then I'm like, wow, I'm glad that I did that. It's almost like, it's those what ifs that sometimes fuck with me a little bit. It's like, what if I'm 40, still nothing happened with it? And I'm like, I gave up my family to like, for this. But at the same time, being the spirit animal tortoise that I am, to me, it's about winning the marathon, not in the sprints. So even though at this point, that music dream hasn't come to fruition, hasn't even come close to fruition, it's still me trusting the process and letting fate and the universe work its magic, and at the same time still feeling like I'm in control to create my reality, and that it'll be whatever I'm able to make it be. And so I think that for me has been on my mind a lot lately, is what is really worth it to sacrifice for what you want. And at the same time, I know a lot of folks have kids, say for example, and their career skyrockets because then they feel like they really have something to live for. And so I think for me that has been a piece as well, as me really trying to figure out how can I live my life for a greater purpose. And in terms of the music, I think the music I leave behind, I hope helps people and is cool, and that I do want that to be like something that I feel proud about and is something that I'm like, I feel like this can help people. But I've also started to switch my lens into how can I help, how can I be of service in even a bigger aspect than that. And part of that is even with this pod, and also getting back into the YouTube channel. Like, I really like ideas, diving into ideas, because I've realized how much those have helped me on my journey. And I think by sharing the scars and the scuffs and when things don't work and the vulnerability and the doubt and all those things that I feel like are inherently also human and universal, but things that we often don't share. We see Instagram and everybody's wins, but I think it's like that process of struggle. For me, this is a struggle, you know what I mean? Everybody got their own struggle. But to me, I think that could be helpful. And so I'm being more intentional about the pod, and also really diving more into the YouTube channel, sharing ideas that I know when I heard Jennifer Lawrence talk about being insecure on a movie set, that was a game changer for me. When I hear artists I look up to, Cole, talking about wondering if he has what it takes to make it, that really resonated with me. And so I'm like, man, there is so much power in that, of being seen, that's something too that I want to share. I think the musical is something I'll continue to create, and I want that to change people's lives, but I'm going to be more intentional about creating real, direct like this ideas, sharing ideas, things that I've learned along the way that I think could be, that I want to help people feel more comfortable being human. And I think that's like almost part of my story as well, is that like people to know that they aren't the only ones that feel that way. And so I say that to say that for me, this whole idea of success and ambition is one that I think is really tricky, because like I said at the beginning, the goalposts always move. And at the beginning, when I was teaching English, well, first of all, when I was a substitute teacher, all I wanted to do was just be abroad and find a way to make money online. And then I did that with the teaching English. And then I was like, how can I find a way to like do something I actually like to do with the beats and stuff? Was able to figure that out with a lot of y'all's help. And then after that, I was like, how can I turn this into a little bit, monetize this in more of a kind of a passive way, so I can buy my freedom and my time back to focus on what I want to do. And here we are. And like I said, this works great for Medellin, for Florianopolis. In LA, I still would need to pick it up. But that this moment in my life when I've been able to create this may not be forever. And trying to also be present and appreciate what I've already built, but not get so high on my own supply that I stop striving, you know? And I think that that's really important. And I think one way that this kind of ties together as well, this is also an idea that when I was talking to Spencer about that really hit home, is that it's really easy, I think, to talk about what success is, especially success in more of that sense of tied with ambition around abundance, whether that's recognition, validation, respect, monetarily, these more kind of traditional, typical things of what quote unquote success might look like. I'm not talking about in terms of items per se, but I'm talking about in kind of those other elements of notoriety. And I think it's easy to shit on those things if you haven't gotten them. So like for me, it's easy to be like, who needs people to like the music? Cause I'm cool, just pursuing the craft. But it's like, I feel like that almost, this is like a double-edged sword. I feel like it almost holds more weight. This is what I was talking about Spencer. It holds more weight if you're like Jim Carrey and you like knock it out of the park and you're like, trust me, $1 million isn't going to make you happy, right? And he's like, I wish everybody could make $1 million so you know that's not going to make you happy. But it almost like holds more weight if you've like made it. You know what I mean? Like if you've done it, you've done the thing. And then you can say, listen, on the other side, to be like, I did it. It's cool. It's not everything it's cracked out to be. Before you just like, oh, it's not everything it's cracked out to be. Okay, yeah, I won't chase it then. You're like, oh, that dream I really wanted, that's not cool. Okay, yeah, I'll just let it go then. Like, it's almost, I almost feel like that by like achieving it or getting close or doing the thing is kind of like what gives you license to shit on it or to not want it anymore, because you know what it's like, the grind, the blood, sweat, and tears to get there. And I'm not saying that getting there necessarily makes you happy, right? I am a firm believer, like, if I'm not happy here, like, getting there probably won't do it. But that there is that piece of, like, I do think there are elements of getting there that are worthwhile and worth pursuing. And that, to me, I think is the game. Is like, how can I make this pursuit of the thing more in line with what I want? Because right now, like I've said before, I feel like I'm like retired. Like, I like the hero's journey. I just kind of like skipped hero's journey, and just like went just like back a space. Just like went. I'm like, I went to just like back to retired, to like living out in this little like beach village with like very low stakes. Where like I feel like I'm out. I've been doing my hero's journey thing for real. I need to like really slay the dragon and like bring it back before I can be like, yeah, don't go fuck with the dragons. Like, the layer's really hot and it's hard and I like lost a couple of fingers. Like, trust me. But I almost like need to slay the fucking dragon first. You know what I mean? And so those are kind of the dualities that I'm always torn between, is all the stuff that I've sacrificed, all the nights out with you guys, dear friends that I've gone to sleep early for because I wanted to wake up and train and jump after the music, all the beautiful times at the beach, out at the forest, going to ruins, going to the movies, going on dates, having a relationship, having kids, like wrapping up any normal semblance of a life and like throwing that bitch like into the trash to be like, nah, I'm gonna like fully go all in on this dream. Like, I've got to be okay with that. I've got to process that those are all choices. Life is choices. But that I really think like finding that beauty in the process is the next unlock for me. So that way there's less about trying to get anywhere, and it's almost like wherever I get is where I'm supposed to get, and that's okay, and to shoot for the moon, but like you land on the stars and that's kosher, but still like shoot for the fucking moon. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just like, oh, I'm settling for the star, but like shoot the shot and like go for it, but to find how to find the real joy in that process, and to take the pressure off of wherever that is, I think is the kind of like next step for me, which is why, like I said, different strokes, different folks. I really, sometimes I question, I was like, was this worth it? And then other days I look around, and when people ask me, like, Kia, how do you not quit? Or I want to quit. How do you? And it's like, because there's nothing I'd rather be doing. There's nothing else. I just don't quit because this is the only thing that I want to do. You know, it's like, there's a lot I want to do, but it's almost like quitting. It's like not an option. It's not even like, it's something that I just feel so drawn to, so called to, and enjoy so much on the days when it works, that again, I get in sync with the universe, and it's like, this is all, this is worth it. This is what I really feel meant to do right now. And so there's a real balance between the two. I'll leave it at that. 2 mini pods for y'all. Something to think about, things that have been on my mind a lot, but again, I really am in this for the marathon piece, and feel like because I've been at it for 10 years and nothing has quite popped off for me yet, that is almost proof enough for me that I have what it takes to win the marathon, because I already know that I got the sauce. It's like, I already know I can do 10 years and nothing happens. So it's not like I got some heat and then it failed and I was like, oh, whatever. I'm like, this is the path, So here, cheers to another 10, right? But I really feel like that the last 10 years was about like kind of finding and creating myself. And the next 10 is going to be like, how do I execute against that? And having a plan B, I can always come back and be retired again. I can always be the rapper, come back into retirement. But I'm feeling ready to go slay some dragons. And so I'm excited for what these next steps hold. And hopefully you feel that same way and can relate to the doubt and question yourself, and knowing that I'm right there along with you for this journey, whatever that is, wherever this may lead. Hopefully the rain was a little calming. I know this was a deep episode. This was an intense episode. This was a hard episode, but it's just something that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about for a while now, and appreciate y'all for being supportive of the pod, being there with me for the journey, for all the times you invited me out when I turned you down because I was going to bed early. I appreciate your patience. If you're still here and you're listening, you're a real one. It means more than you'll ever know. Here's to the next chapter, the next adventure, to risk and reward. Let's go slay some dragons. I appreciate y'all, as always. Check in a minute. Peace.